Stephanie White of the Indiana Fever goes on the Good Follow podcast and talks about Caitlin Clark's development, her picks for next season, at least like what she wants them to be, and a lot more of the
Indiana Fever coach Stephanie White has revealed a groundbreaking plan to increase Caitlin Clark's production for the forthcoming WNBA season. Similar to finding the final jigsaw piece required to complete Clark's development, White is rebuilding her whole skill set from the ground up. She wants to stop Clark from using the same old left step back and right drive tactics that defenses have started to deploy. White also wants to improve Clark's finishing skills and change the way she goes off the ball so that her play may change dynamically.
So, in watching Stephanie White talk about Caitlin Clark's development, it was very fascinating to get her take on it as an actual coach.
This comprehensive approach to development is expected to raise Clark's game to previously unheard-of levels. Exciting things are on the horizon as the changeover is well underway. Let's examine the specifics of the interview, including the novel approaches and revelations that will impact Clark's playing career. Please CC us 100% in the comment section below, and subscribe to our channel if you're a Caitlin Clark fan.
We already know that Caitlin has put on some strength and muscle. She had that viral picture.
Yeah, you saw that.
Have you seen the Caitlin Clark photo that went viral on the internet? She seems really fit in the picture and has fantastic muscle definition. In an attempt to determine whether the image is artificial intelligence or real, fans have been discussing it constantly. During her latest appearance on the Good Follow podcast, Coach Stephanie White refuted every accusation. Coach White said that Clark's amazing muscles are real when asked about the eye-catching photo. She explained that it had nothing to do with photoshopping or artificial intelligence. Clark's metamorphosis, like a superhero showcasing her new powers, demonstrates her steadfast dedication to strength training all summer long. In addition to thrilling her fan base, this revelation prepares them for the incredible performance she is anticipated to deliver throughout the forthcoming WNBA season.
I asked her if it was Photoshop.
She said it was AI.
The difficulties Clark had during her first season are reflected in this physical change. During pivotal moments, WNBA opponents frequently exploited their strength to throw her off balance and interrupt her flow. This was one of the primary issues with Clark's performance, according to Coach White. The outcomes are now apparent. Clark is ready to take on the top defenders in the league because he is stronger and more resilient. In addition to preparing her for the competitive environment, her development represents a notable improvement in her command of the game's physicality.
What aspects of her game would you like to work with her on for this season?
Yeah, I mean, certainly getting stronger was one. You know, the level of physicality in the W is totally different. That's a way that teams have to try to keep her off balance.
It's amazing how quickly Clark adjusted to her development plan. Coach White recalls their early training sessions and says she admires them. We worked on her footwork and balance from the first day, and by the second day, she had it, White explains. Caitlin's unrelenting work ethic demonstrates her tendency toward perfection and her persistent will to do better. White even makes a significant comparison between Clark and NBA legend Kobe Bryant, who was known for his unwavering focus and methodical approach to perfecting his skills. This comparison highlights Clark's remarkable dedication to delivering top-notch work and her desire to do better. It's evident from her tenacity that Clark is not just adjusting but also ready to reach her greatest potential and become a formidable WNBA player.
Keeping a low center of gravity. You know, there are times where she plays a little bit upright, making sure core strength and her ability to move with time under tension and stay in a low center of gravity is important. Lateral movement, like one of the challenges that we're coming to her with right away is the defensive end of the floor. Use your size, use your length. You've got to that's got to be a priority, right? That's got to be a priority to play both ends, because we don't have to go from 11 or 12 to 1 or 2, but we got to get to mid.
The first obvious proof of Clark's dedication to a strict training schedule intended to get her body ready for the physically demanding demands of WNBA play is the remarkable physical transformation shown in that extensively shared photo. It felt like the end of getting pushed around in the paint. Although gaining muscle helps with some of her physical difficulties, Coach White saw a bigger problem that would restrict Clark's future choices. It became clear as the season went on that defenders were starting to predict what she would do. Her opponents were able to predict her moves, so it became a complex chess game. This disturbing trend became so obvious that all the clubs in the league began to exploit it. Coach White identified the main cause of Clark's performance becoming too predictable and emphasized the necessity for her to continue improving and become more adaptable.
I think from just a straight basketball perspective, making sure that we help her diversify, her finishing ability, diversify in the way that.
White went into great length on Clark's most exploitable habit in his Good Follow podcast. A distinct pattern emerged during Clark's first campaign. She favored a step-back jumper to her left and frequently drove to her right when attacking the hoop. This regularity gave WNBA defenders an edge, much like learning the answers before an exam. White underlined that if Clark is to keep growing and succeeding in the league, this propensity needs to be addressed.
Great to hear, because everybody knows the thing with Caitlin that made her so good was that everyone knows what she's doing and they can't stop it. If she's going left, she wants to shoot the step back. If she goes right, she wants to go to the basket. And yes, there are times that she can kind of fade away a bit over right shoulder, or she can make a kind of move going right and slow down, speed up. She's very, very good, quick first step, and runs so well in transition.
Of course, this difficulty is illustrated by late season statistics. Defenders contested Clark's hallmark step-back jumper 22% more often in her last 10 games than they did in her first 10. Predictability became her primary attacking weakness as her first season progressed. In order to neutralize her most dependable techniques, seasoned defenders skillfully evaluated her game and started crowding her step-back stroke by shifting left and overplaying her right hand on drives. These patterns are often exploited by WNBA defenders, and as teams evolved over time, Clark found it harder to carry out the plays that were once seen on highlight reels. Coach White has made diversifying Clark's offensive arsenal a high focus in an attempt to increase her effectiveness and make it less predictable.
To be able to be equal in terms of production and facilitation going right.
White's all-encompassing development approach is to make Clark completely unexpected. She is concentrating on improving Clark's left-hand abilities, especially when it comes to using her offhand to finish at the rim. This improvement might have a big impact. Clark will become even more formidable and challenging to stop as opponents are unable to predict her actions.
This is like the cream of the crop. They are going to catch on to the idea that she doesn't like to drive left. She always wants to drive right because she's right-hand dominated. And when she does her step back, she likes to step back and go left. So I did see in some of her workout videos the practicing of her developing a left hand. I saw her stepping right. So these are all great things to be developing for an already elite player.
To be able to be equal in terms of production and facilitation going right and left, to be able to have different types of finishing looks, whether it's, crossbody finishes, whether it's floaters at the rim, whether it's quick floaters, long floaters, Euros. You can't quite be as fundamentally predictable with as much athleticism, speed, quickness, and as much as the game plan is going to be geared toward.
Dribbling is only one aspect of the evolution. Clark is learning new finishing skills from Coach White, such as the Euro step. Let's say Clark decides to show off her newfound strength by driving downward. Defenders are taken off guard because they don't know what she's going to do next. She finishes with either hand after suddenly executing a deft Euro step that leaves them flat-footed. Against even the strongest defenders in the league, this one move might lead to significant scoring opportunities.
Euro, which at that point, it had hit me that I have never thought about Caitlin Clark doing a Euro. But you know what? I have to call this.
White's acknowledgement that notable progress is already being made is the most positive discovery. She was upbeat about Clark's progress during the conversation and mentioned how much better her left hand had become. This major change will need defenses to rethink their strategy from the ground up. Clark's offensive strategy opens up a world of possibilities if it is really ambidextrous. Defenders who had previously been forced to stand aside had to defend her. All it takes for a great scorer like Clark to gain an edge is this fleeting moment of defensive bewilderment. Clark will be able to further develop her already remarkable abilities with this improvement.
That's going to be a huge thing. I don't expect it to be her to be perfectly good going left and right at an equal rate next year. Don't expect her to shoot the same going right, or I don't expect her to drive the same going left. But it's like it took LeBron till 2013 realistically to be able to drive drive at the same level left as right. So I don't expect that to happen to Caitlin Clark in a year, but there's a bit of an improvement year on year. She's going to be even more.
Although opponents have a difficult time creating Clark's ambidextrous attack, Coach White's wisest move tackles a bigger issue that supporters noticed last season: Clark's weariness. Instead of just giving her a break, White came up with a thorough plan to guarantee her productivity despite her weariness. Clark's influence frequently waned later in the game. Bullets missed, the offensive grew cliched, and her legs felt heavy. She was either pushed into a corner or took over as the main ball handler when she was worn out, neither of which succeeded. Coach White took on this problem head-on and tried to come up with solutions. Then, I believe, the difficulty that as coaches encounter.
And then I think the challenge for us as coaches is how do we get her rest when she's on the floor while she's playing, right? Like while she's on the floor. And so that's going to be playing off ball, utilize her as a screen.
White, who is well aware of Clark's skills and the difficulties of a demanding WNBA season, searches for methods to allow Clark to rejuvenate while continuing to have an influence on the game. Recasting Clark as an off-ball threat is the answer. White plans to discuss what she calls the third and fourth sides of the court with Clark. She utilizes spaces where opponents don't expect her to be there in order to surprise them and cause chaos without wasting the energy required to start every attacking play. By employing this tactic, White hopes to control Clark's endurance and optimize her performance throughout the season.
Getting her into action on the third and fourth side instead of the first and second, where it's easy to game plan against. Now, how we use her to help everybody else be better off the ball. We know how great she is with the ball in her hands. We're not going to take that away, but we've got to be able to diversify a bit in how we use her.
Clark becomes a whole different character as a result of this tactic. Whether she had the ball at the top of the key or was in the corner, the opponent knew exactly where she was last season. By moving Clark across the court and using her in ways that WNBA defenses aren't ready for, White hopes to upset that predictability. In order to maximize her effect and keep defenders guessing, White wants to make sure Clark is a consistent threat throughout the game by switching up her offensive stances and actions.
Well, I mean, we've got like a short-term kind of list and we got a long-term kind of list, but Caitlin, you know, I remember from the very first day when we were working on balance and we were working on footwork and we were looking at all those things, from day one to day two, she had it.
Wow.
Like she's a perfectionist and she wants it and she's going to work on it. So that long list might get shorter every day.
White plans to use Clark as a screener, much like Golden State did with Steph Curry. Defenses are put in a difficult position when one of the league's best shooters sets screens. Clark can exploit a mismatch against a slower, larger opponent if they decide to switch. But the guy Clark is screening for will probably get an open shot if defenders fight through the screen. Since the defense is weak in either case, Clark may have a big impact on the play without having to write it herself. White knows she and the squad are more effective when she changes Clark's role during a 40-minute game. White understands the value of strategic relaxation through a variety of offensive responsibilities, despite the fact that some coaches may insist that their star player touch the ball all the time.
Very true, because she's going to get burned out. So I think that, and you know, Caitlin Clark mentioned wanting to play off ball a little bit, but I think it's true that having her play off ball is going to give her a little bit of a rest, and that makes her game more sustainable. She doesn't burn out as much.
Clark can influence games without always having the ball thanks to his approach, which concentrates particularly on the fourth quarters when she frequently lost the game. White ensures that her superstar status endures despite exhaustion by using this strategy. This strategy is great from a tactical and developmental standpoint. White is turning Clark into an offensive weapon with versatility who can succeed in a variety of situations over the course of her career. Superstars become legendary by adding new components to their game that are nearly impossible for opponents to counter. Reduced somewhat in terms of Kate and Clark's off-ball play, because of course, it's similar to what happens when a coach executes the right plan and approach.
That is such a big thing to hear from Stephanie White, and it should calm people down a little bit when it comes to Caitlin Clark playing off the ball, because obviously, if a coach has a plan and vision and a proper plan and vision.
Look at the work that Stephanie White is producing. When the season comes around, the defense won't recognize the completely different player she is making Clark into. Every aspect of Clark's game is addressed by White's all-encompassing strategy, which turns her into a serious attacking threat. Clark's obsession with perfection speeds up this transition even more. White has commended her for picking up new techniques fast and for showing notable progress in between practices. The basketball brain currently in development has the potential to revolutionize women's basketball. Clark is poised to become one of the most potent offensive weapons in WNBA history thanks to her increased physical strength, improved off-ball mobility, and newly discovered unpredictability on both the offensive and defensive ends. Watch for her to show up in the upcoming season. This advancement is going to be really amazing. Type CC in the comments if you're thrilled to see Caitlin Clark return to the court. Please hit like and subscribe if you liked it. Please hit like and subscribe if you liked it. There are now more videos available.